What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Meeple Minded. Of course, my name is Jason, and today is the day. It is officially the start of the UK convention season, at least for us here at the Meeple Minded, because today I'm sending off to our local game convention, which is, of course, Paradice. I am going to be flying solo this year, and my main purpose this year is to give you guys a boots-on-the-ground look as to what has happened to the convention in the past year, what changes have been made. Because if you've been following along on the channel for a little while, you'll remember last year there were some growing pains, shall we say. Last year was their first time in a new venue. It was their first time doing 2 days. So yeah, there were a few things that needed adjustment. So I'm looking forward to seeing if those things have been addressed. So what is the plan for today? Here is the plan. I'm going to take you along to have a little look around the venue itself. We're going to have a little walk around, let you see what the scope of the land is about, and see if this is something you would be interested in going to potentially next year, because I think by the time I get this video out, it's going to be over for this year. But do stick around, because at the end of this video, once I've been and done, I've come home, reflected on my thoughts, I will give you those thoughts and opinions on the show. So, with that being said, let's head off to Worthing.
We've been living in sin so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. We've been living in sin so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go! All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. You seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over, it's about time. Oh, all sing your high line on the roller coaster of life. You've got to all choose your timeline with the roller coaster of life. I want to go down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole of life. And now it's about to leave. Oh, roller coaster.
Hey guys, so back in the studio, as you can see, I haven't bothered to get the main camera all set up for this. I'm just using my computer camera setup for this. So yeah, it's Sunday. I was going to do this when I got home on the Saturday, but it was quite late by the time we got home, which I guess is a good thing because it meant we wanted to stay all day. So yeah, obviously I said I was on a solo mission yesterday. That was true. I was on my own, no other Meeple Minded crew with me. I had my family with me, so we spent a good family day there. We also travelled down with Simon of Board Stupid, so thank you for coming with us, Simon. I hope you enjoyed the day. Met up with the other Board Stupid guys while we were there. That was fantastic. But yeah, I thought I'd give you a little bit of a breakdown as to how the day went and whether they made any improvements on previous years. Now, just very quickly, I have been to every Paradice convention that they have done. This was the 4th year, I think it was. The first 2 years were at a totally separate venue, and it was only one day. And I really enjoyed those. They were fantastic. But they very quickly outgrew that space, and that's why it had the move. Last year, as we said, had some growing pains and some teething pains, but this year was the year that I was hoping that they would really nail down what they had been doing. So I've written everything I have on my thoughts down on the computer, and so bear with me as I will be reading that as well. So yeah, first off, let's get the boring stuff out the way, which is of course logistics. Now, last year, the opening was a real bottleneck, shall we say. There was one massive queue. It was a combination of people that had tickets, who didn't have tickets, who needed to pick up tickets. And then there was very few people, actually checking tickets as you were going into the hall, which slowed everything down. I'm pleased to say that this was addressed this year, and in a big way. So we arrived at 10 to 11, 10 minutes before doors opened. And at that time last year, the queue was out of the door, through the car park, nearly back to the main road. It was really bad. And being held in a leisure centre, it was stopping people from using the leisure centre as well. So, yeah, it was not good. But this year, absolutely fantastic. We joined the queue probably about 5 to 11, I reckon. And then bang on 11 o'clock, queue started moving straight away. They'd already separated people who previously had tickets or collected tickets and were ready to go in. And then, of course, as soon as doors opened, the queue started moving in. And no word of a lie, we were collecting tickets while we were there. And by 11:05, we were in the venue. So we were able to collect our tickets, join the queue to go into the venue, and we're in by 11:05, 5 minutes. Absolutely fantastic. I can't fault it at all. So well done, guys. Really, really pleased that you managed to make those changes. Okay, so another addition that actually made things very, very simple, and this was all coming down to the logistics side of things as well, was the introduction of lanyards. Now, I know this is a very small thing. A lot of us that go to conventions, we're used to getting lanyards, UK Games Expo, etc. This was new. This was a game changer because it made going in and out of the halls throughout the day a breeze. You didn't have to fumble around trying to find tickets or anything like that. So that was a nice addition, and I'm glad to see that that will come back next year. So the next thing I want to talk about is the vendor mix ratio. I mentioned in the start of this video that last year's ratio from vendors to board game adjacent vendors, shall we say, was a bit skew-iff in the wrong direction. So was that changed this year? I'm going to say yes, it was. There was definitely a lot more board games on show this year, and definitely a lot more places to buy board games. This year I actually bought board games, which I did not do last year from what I remember. There was still, of course, the 3D print stand. There was still, of course, the LARPing stands and those kind of things. But they were a much better ratio. We're probably talking 50-50 at this point, which I'm okay with. That's absolutely fine, because while those stands aren't really for me personally, there is a substantial amount of the community that is into that kind of stuff. So it's nice that it's all represented in one place, but at a much more spread out ratio. So well done, guys. I think you've done fantastic at making that ratio a bit more acceptable to all that attend. So this year, open gaming. Now, this one was really surprising to me because last year, open gaming, while being of a substantial size, wasn't actually as well utilized as I expected it to be. This year, however, that was totally different. It was wonderful to see that the open gaming was pretty much full every single time I went past it. And that was from sort of morning through to night as well. Obviously, come sort of 7 o'clock, it did start to peter out a little bit, and then by I think it was 9:30 is when we left. It was obviously winding down, ready for that 10 o'clock closure. But yeah, it was good. I'm very, very happy with that. There was a decent selection of games being played, a nice amount of gaming space, which hopefully come across in the walk around video as well. That you will have watched by this point. So yep, fantastic. Open gaming was brilliant. The bring and buy. Now, last year's bring and buy was good. I had no qualms about it really. But there were some changes made to that this year. First off, it was bigger. Now, that's a good thing. More games for people to buy is always a good thing. But the key thing that was changed this year is they introduced a new system, which was the game system. Now, this was a really, really nice change in my opinion because I was able to submit my games in advance using wasn't an app, but their web system. You could submit the games there. It was all linked to BGG, so it gave you a lot of information about the games. You could set the prices on there, and when you turned up, you literally booked in. They printed just stickers. You stuck them on the box. You handed the games in. Hunky dory, they added them to the shelf. But the best thing I liked about it is throughout the day, using that same system, you could check to see which of your games had sold. Now, this was good because I was able to see what games I had sold, how much basically I was making, because if you do have a deduction for that goes towards the charity Andy's Angels, which I will talk about in a minute. Which is fine. That's a very standardized thing when you use a bring and buy at the conventions at UK Games Expo and such. But yeah, that was great to be able to see what I had and hadn't sold. And to be honest, I sold all but 2 of my games, which was fantastic. Annoyingly, it was the 2 games that I really wanted to sell. And the other ones I wasn't too bothered about if it didn't, but you know, that is what it is. Maybe I priced them wrong. I don't know. Maybe people just weren't interested. But either way, it was incredibly well done. I did hear some horror stories, I will say, of some games that went missing. I can't personally attest to this because it did not happen to me, but the people that it did happen to that I spoke to, I trust them. You know, I do trust them. So I'm saying that is potentially a thing that they need to address going forward. I would say maybe where it was bigger and there was a couple of different entrances into the area that didn't seem to be manned. You know, most of the people were on the desk scanning games in and out, which is kind of what you want because you want to get in and out. But it also opens the door to potential theft. So it's kind of upsetting that if that is what's happened, there's people of our community that are doing that. And this is something that I know happens at UK Games Expo as well. Guys, just these weren't particularly expensive games, but just buy the games. You know, if you're going to buy them, if you want the games, buy them. You know, and not only that, the charity that, you know, this was all in support of ended up having to pay out for those missing games. So you've actually stolen from a charity. There's very few things that you can say are lower than stuff like that. So, guys, come on, let's buy the games. Let's be something that other communities aren't. But yeah, as for the actual bring and buy, maybe next year my recommendation will be, unfortunately, we need to take some preventative measures, and I think we might need to station some volunteers on all of the exits of the bring and buy area. If it means having a receipt printing system so that when you buy a game, you get the receipt to prove it on your exit, so be it. Unfortunately, it's what supermarkets have to do. I think it's something that we're going to have to look into for Paradice. Okay, so that is open gaming and the bring and buy. I now just want to talk very briefly about Andy's Angels, which is the charity that this convention supports. Now, I'm going to be reading my notes a bit more on this one because, I want to make sure I get things at least somewhat right. Now, obviously, by purchasing from the Bring and Buy, they had a stand there as well. There was a raffle and stuff which you could do, which all helped towards the charity. If you weren't able to attend, I believe you can still make donations to Andy's Angels, which I will give you the information for in just a second. But yeah, let's just talk about them. So Andy's Angels is the most important part for me with regards to Paradice, because it is a charity that provides a grief play cafe, which is a safe, free space for children and their families to navigate the journey of bereavement, is how it's listed. It's an incredible cause that relies on community support to keep those sessions running. Now, in the past sort of year to 2 years, I've suffered bereavement myself. Obviously, I'm a grown man. I sort of suck it up and crack on. Typical Brit, stiff upper lip and all that, stuff. But grief still affects me. There isn't a time that goes by that I don't think about my mother who passed away. My dad passed away many, many years ago. But it still hurts. I may not show it on the surface. So there are people that are probably not quite as strong as me in that sense. And, Andy's Angels is a great charity that supports that kind of stuff. And they are actually Worthing based. So they're a very local charity to the convention. And indeed to me, it's, 45 minutes down the road. But yeah, if you couldn't make the event and you are willing to separate yourself with some of your hard-earned money to help this wonderful charity, then please do. I do encourage you to check out their work and make a donation. And the website, I believe, is andysangels.org.uk, which should be on your screen now. I'll also put it in the link in the description of this video as well. So, yeah, Andy's Angels are a really great charity. They're a really nice bunch of guys. I had a good chat with them while I was there. And I do encourage you to check them out. But yes, that is all I've really got to say about Paradice Board Game Convention 2026. Overall, it was a very, very pleasant day. I'm happy that we spent the entire day there. We got some good games played. We got to speak to some wonderful publishers. I picked up some new games. And it kind of reignited my passion a little bit because, as I'm sure you've noticed, the solo videos with just me, my ugly mug, have been lacking this year, especially. I have been lacking in the motivation to do them recently, so hopefully this has reignited that flame a little bit. But as we go closer and closer to the UK Games Expo, that flame will 100% come back, because I am very excited for UK Games Expo this year. So, with that being said, guys, thank you very, very much for watching. Did any of you attend Paradice Convention this year? Let me know your thoughts. If you attended both last year and this year, do you think things were made better? Because I certainly do, and I definitely would recommend going along in 2027. Fingers crossed they actually run it. I'm certain they will, but Mill and the team have done an absolutely fantastic job. Respect those volunteers that do help make it happen every single year. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. My name has been Jason. I will hopefully see you down the line. My next convention is the UK Games Expo. I guess I will see you there and in the build up to it. Thank you very much for watching, and see you then.